In 1932, Australia went to war, not with a country, with birds, tall, fluffy, flightless birds that could not strategize, could not aim, and as far as anyone could tell, could not count. The birds won. This is the Great Emu War, a genuine military operation in which the Australian Army sent soldiers, a truck, and 2 machine guns against 20,000 emus, and lost so badly the government refused to confirm the body count. Best guess, somewhere between 50 and a few hundred dead emus. Bullets fired, around 10,000. That's roughly 10 machine gun rounds per bird. The emus had no guns, no plan, and no thumbs. They just walked away. Remember that the emus walked away, it's going to keep happening. Let's back up. Our setting, Western Australia, the dry wheat country around a tiny district called Campion. Our heroes, the farmers, sunburned ex-soldiers in battered slouch hats, droopy mustaches, faces permanently set to exasperated. Many were World War I veterans. After the war, the government handed them marginal scrubland and said, in effect, "Congratulations on surviving the trenches. Now grow wheat in this dust." It was called the Soldier Settlement Scheme. It was a tough living at the best of times. These were not the best of times. By 1932, the Great Depression had flattened wheat prices. The government had promised the farmers, sunburned, mustached, exasperated, a subsidy to get them through. The subsidy did not come. So they planted their wheat, watered it, prayed over it, and waited for harvest. Then the emus arrived. Meet the antagonists. Tall, fluffy, brown, flightless birds, ridiculous skinny legs, tiny heads, and a wide, blank, unblinking stare that suggests no thoughts whatsoever. Every spring, after breeding inland, emus migrate toward the coast looking for water. In 1932, 20,000 of them discovered that the farmers had thoughtfully installed across hundreds of acres fresh water and an all-you-can-eat wheat buffet. To an emu, paradise. To a farmer, the apocalypse with feathers. The emus trampled the crops, flattened the fences, and ate everything in reach, which, given the necks, was a lot. The broken fences let the rabbits in, who ate whatever the emus missed. 2 species, 1 combo attack. The farmers were losing to wildlife. So they did something very Australian. They formed a delegation and took the problem to the Minister of Defense. Meet Sir George Pearce. Portly, 3-piece suit, bushy white eyebrows, and the smug, untroubled face of a man who has never personally chased a bird across a paddock. The farmers, being ex-soldiers, made a soldier's argument. The emus were an invading army, so send the army. And Pearce agreed. He figured the gunners would get target practice, the emus would be wiped out, and it might even make a nice newsreel. He approved machine guns to fight birds. Australia had officially declared war on emus. Enter our commanding officer, Major G.P.W. Meredith of the 7th Heavy Battery, Royal Australian Artillery. Crisp khaki uniform, peaked officer's cap, a neat, confident mustache, and the bright expression of a man who believes this will take an afternoon. His army, 2 soldiers, 2 Lewis machine guns, 10,000 rounds. They even discussed filming it, which tells you exactly how seriously everyone expected the emus to take this. The emus were not consulted. Operations began on November 2nd, 1932. First contact. The soldiers spotted about 50 emus. The plan was simple. Herd them into range, mow them down. But the emus, fluffy, skinny-legged, blank-eyed, did the one thing the army had not wargamed. They split up. One big flock became dozens of tiny groups sprinting in every direction at once. Major Meredith, crisp uniform, confident mustache, opened fire anyway. The birds were out of range, a few dropped, the rest hit 30 miles an hour and walked away. Well, ran away. The emus were fine. Round 1 to the emus. Major Meredith regrouped. Days later, he set an ambush at a dam, a known watering hole. This time, the numbers were glorious. Over 1,000 emus marching toward the water in one enormous fluffy column. The gunner waited. He let them get close. He opened fire, and after killing about a dozen birds, the Lewis gun jammed. The remaining 1,000 emus watched 12 friends drop, calmly accelerated, and vanished into the scrub where the gun couldn't follow. The emus were fine. Major Meredith's confident mustache was the first casualty of the war. Here's a detail. The kind reported by observers at the time, not a verified emu fact. According to several accounts, the soldiers noticed the emu groups didn't run randomly. Each pack seemed to post a lookout, a big bird standing tall, watching for soldiers, signaling the others to scatter the moment the guns appeared. Major Meredith himself came away half impressed, comparing the birds' discipline and their ability to soak up damage to that of a trained army. The man was sent to exterminate poultry. He was now publicly praising their leadership. This is not how military campaigns are supposed to go, but Major Meredith, wilting mustache, fading confidence, was not done. If the emus would not come to the guns would go to the emus. He bolted a Lewis machine gun to the back of a truck. This was a disaster. It turns out emus run faster than a 1932 truck drives over bumpy, unfenced farmland. The truck bounced so violently the gunner couldn't aim at the sky, let alone a sprinting bird. The emus simply outpaced the vehicle. And then, this is real. One emu got tangled in the steering. The truck lost control and crashed into a fence. The vehicle was wrecked. The emus were fine. The emus were always fine. By around November 8th, the Army had fired roughly 2,500 rounds. Confirmed emu casualties, unclear but pathetic. A few hundred at the generous end, 50 at the honest end. Word reached Parliament, where politicians asked the obvious question: why is the Army losing a war to birds, and who is paying for the bullets? Embarrassed, the government recalled Major Meredith. The First Emu War was over. The emus had not surrendered. Nobody had told the emus there was a war, but the farmers, sunburned, mustached, still exasperated, now also out of wheat, kept complaining. The emus had not left. The emus were never going to leave. So the government, against all good judgment, sent Major Meredith back into the field around November 12th to finish the job. The second campaign was, by the standards of the first, a triumph, which tells you how low the bar was. Meredith claimed steadier results, reporting that by early December, he was killing roughly 100 emus a week. When it wrapped around December 10th, his final tally was about 986 emus, for 9,160 rounds of ammunition. Yes, do the math. 10 machine gun bullets per bird. The Australian Army spent the firepower of a small battle on 900-odd flightless poultry, while the other 19,000 emus shrugged and went to eat someone else's wheat. Graded as a war, the emus didn't just survive, they took minimal losses and held the territory. And here's the part that seals it. Afterward, the farmers asked for military help again. The government, having learned its one lesson, said no. No more machine guns. No more trucks crashing into fences. Instead, they offered a bounty for emu beaks. Boring, civilian. And it actually worked. And eventually, they did the genuinely sensible thing they should have done on day one. They built bigger fences. So, the final scoreboard. The Australian Army. 2 soldiers, 2 machine guns, 1 truck, nearly 10,000 bullets, 1 wrecked vehicle, and a national humiliation. The emus. 20,000 birds, 0 weapons, 0 strategy, 0 awareness that a war was even happening. And they kept the wheat, kept their range, and walked away, as the only flightless birds in history to officially outgeneral the Royal Australian Artillery. Major Meredith went home. Sir George Pierce, portly, smug, bushy eyebrows, got teased about it in Parliament for ages. And the emus, fluffy, skinny-legged, blank-eyed, went right back to standing in the wheat, staring at nothing, undefeated. Nobody ever told the emus they were supposed to lose, so they didn't. If you had to wage one ridiculous war in history, who would you send the machine guns against? Let me know in the comments.